Betsy and Thomas here for the American Intelligence Media. We're going to move on to how in the world are we going to take care of all the criminals that we have in this country. It was exciting to read that Gitmo is getting spit and polished, and Catherine Herridge is down there getting ready to report on the things that are going to happen. And although I don't think she really knows what's going to happen, but she is a good reporter, and I look forward to listening to her reports. But when I saw 30,000 beds, Thomas, I said, well, that's nothing. That just takes care of Northwest Washington area. So what are we really talking about here? We've got countries that have agreed to accept their people back, these invaders, but there's going to be people left over. And plus, we have criminals running everywhere in this country. We've got to take care of them. We have to clean it up. Where are we going to put them? And then to see this agreement that El Salvador is going to make with us is just unbelievable. Now, I have a particular interest in this because years ago I worked for the Education Corporation of America, and it was housed in the same office as the Corrections Corporation of America, CCA. Maybe I got one of the C's wrong, but it was they started out in the private prison market, and there's a lot of money to be made in private for-profit prisons. So that's what you have out here, and it's going to cost a lot for the taxpayer to house all these inmates. But El Salvador says, hey, we'll be your country. We don't charge as much. There'll be a small fee, and you can put them here in El Salvador. And we've got a fantastic prison system known around the world. Would you want to be in an El Salvadorian prison?
Haven't you seen those pictures? They got like 10 guys per bunk. They sleep on top of each other.
Good, put butt fuck in there.
But you know what? Nobody wants to get arrested in Thailand. You know why? Because they still put you in a prison which has no sewage. They just have water up to your knees. So and the water flows through the prison. So if you're standing in the sewer. That's what we need. Or bring back the death sentence, as Trump has said. Because why? These people are dealing out fentanyl that is 100 times stronger than fentanyl is in the hospital. And that's the strongest painkiller there is. And then they're now mixing it with things that turn people into zombies. And who is that? MS-13. Well, guess what? Go ahead. Ask yourself the question. Where did MS-13 start? It started in Los Angeles, California. Why? Because they were the branch of the CIA selling the drugs that the CIA was bringing across the border, not only from Afghanistan, from Thailand, from opium from China, you name it. The CIA was bringing it up through the U.S. U.S. Fruit Company. They used to pack it in all the fruit, and Colombia was their main headquarters. And so basically, the CIA turned Mexico, Central America, and South America, at least the top part of it, into a CIA operation gone bad that then became the number one way that the globalists and the Pilgrim Society were attacking America, by not only bringing in a lot of criminals, but also, which basically is bankrupting America. We are bankrupt. We're $36 trillion in the hole. So we're bankrupt. Why? Because the CIA, and then when you say CIA, you say OSS, you say MI5, MI6, you say Britain, you say this is the Pilgrims. It's the same plan they always had. And this is, one of their points in their 200-year plan to take us down. Make sure there's plenty of drugs as the panacea for the common people so they don't notice what's going on. And then you blame it on the opposite people who are actually doing it. So that's, those all the people. Remember, they used to tell us MS-13 gang members they started in El Salvador and Honduras and the triangle there, right? That's what they used to tell us. Incorrect. Don't forget Oliver North. Don't forget how many programs we've had using our military to bring drugs into America over the southern border. And remember, the CIA and Doge, please tell me the 2,000 names of the CIA-owned fake companies that are all around the world that have infiltrated everything. Because until you tell me that, you haven't done a very good job, because I can tell you a whole bunch of them. And I'm sitting here in my lazy boy, in my pajamas. So let's get real with this thing. We are paying the countries that invaded us. And remember, those people the very people we're sending back. How do you think we know they're 5-time convicted murderers in their country? And then we let them go. Does anyone ever ask these questions? We know who these people are if they come out of the prisons. They're brought up here in buses. We've seen them. And they're given money. They're given everything they need to cross over. They're even given camouflage. They're given weapons. And they come in with the coyotes. Why? Because they're criminals working for the cartel drug lords. So on the southern border, what you're going to see is the following. And I've only seen one article that talked about this, and it was because Eric Prince mentioned it. Eric Prince and, Halliburton, what was their group called? Anyway, they all of the ex-presidents have groups that are mercenaries. Okay, mercenaries. And Eric Prince is a mercenary, and he changes the name of his group all the time. I can't remember the new name. But there's a bunch of these. So Trump said, don't you worry about what's going to happen with the cartel wars, because people were saying there's going to be a war on the border. And he's going, you ever heard of letters of marque? I can pay mercenaries. I think it's pronounced Marquis. Marquis, yeah. Well, Marquis. He can hire the mercenaries. It's not illegal for them to go across the border or to operate in America and then go across the border. So you saw pictures now where there's a soldier every 3 feet on the other side of the Rio Grande. There's law enforcement, there's National Guard, there's our U.S. troops, there's a Coast Guard, there's everybody's there, but they can't cross. Well, guess what? With a letter of marque or whatever it's called. In other words, it's a charter. It's a presidential charter based upon what used to happen with that's how America got founded, was charters written to criminals and religious dissidents and all kinds of horrible people. They would say, yeah, go ahead, go over to America, fight the Indians, and start at Jamestown, at William and Mary, at Plymouth, at all these places. Why do you think we have all the British names? That was them getting rid of their bad people. Well, we're going to get rid of – that's what all the countries in the world did to us. They sent us their bad people, and we were so stupid because of liberal stupidity and communism going on in this country and fascism. And there's not even a name for the ism going on here in America during the Biden administration, by the way. $637 billion for the Department of Education during Biden for an organization that doesn't even have a constitutional basis or existence. What's that saying? Oh, for DEI?
For $1 billion from the Department of Education.
That was, the DEI for the Department of Education. But remember, it was $637 billion that year, 2020. Okay, we are talking about the grossest mismanagement of money. It didn't take a Doge. I could have taken Miss Miller's 5th grade class and gone there and demonstrated this. Anyone who could do any bookkeeping knew, and Matt, we've heard, what's her name? Yellen herself say that there's 2 sets of books with the Fed. And when $2.5 trillion came up missing one day, they said, what happened? They said, well, we have off-books account. We don't know what happened to that money that we gave them to the banks. We don't know where it went. 2.5 trillion.
And what are we going to do to the Pentagon and all of its missing money?
And then when China and Russia tried to work together with BRICS. What happened? Trump said, okay, 100% tariffs on anyone involved in BRICS trying to bust the American dollar currency monopoly. Okay? Which, because the BSI said that they would be the clearinghouse for BRICS, it was going to be possible if they use fake money, cryptocurrency, in other words, and fake gold, fake reserves, gold in China and Russia, which we now know, recently China's been caught again trying to put, 84 tons into their reserves. And Uganda said, 1,000 tons, from Uganda, which, I went there. I looked at the pictures. No, they ain't digging there. There ain't no gold coming out of Uganda. That's all fake. Anyway, Trump is squishing China, and Russia found out when they did one of their first big deals with China that China screwed them. Okay? And then you haven't heard any more deals from China and Russia, have you? Because every deal with China, you get screwed. Okay? You shake hands with them, count your fingers afterwards. Now, we are going to we've already squished China And because of the floods they had, and because of the bank runs they had, because they were caught killing 2 million Uyghur people, because of this and this and this and that and this and that, China is in the worst way. Everybody says they're our biggest enemy and that they're the superpower and that we are second to them. No, incorrect. They're not even close. If we don't buy their stuff, they die in a year, 1 year. That's it. They do not have a quantum computer. They do not have fusion reaction for 1,000 seconds, which they say. They do not have a moon base on the dark side of the moon. They do not have anything they say they have. And if you believe it, you're an idiot. I'm sorry. So Trump has just annihilated them. What did he do? He ignored President Xi. Ignored the superpower of the universe. No, he ain't nothing. And with Putin stopped his meeting to get up to answer the phone to Trump. And what did Trump say? Exactly as I told you. How much of Ukraine do you have to have? And when we settle that, it's over. That's all that it's about. And what now? Oh, whoa, how do I know this is true? Because, and by the way, you can't keep up with Trump unless you hear every single word that man says. You have no idea what's going on. What's happening in Ukraine right now? Lithium, rare earth minerals. He didn't care. The grain's gone. He doesn't care about coal. We got tons of that. But the rare earth minerals, which caused, the fake hurricanes to be pushed all the way to the second largest lithium holding in America, which is in North Carolina and Western Tennessee, right? Hello, that was stage 1 of 3 to take from the environmentalists their lithium, the lithium from underground. Don't have to do it. Same thing with Arkansas. They just found the largest lithium holdings maybe in America and maybe in the world. They don't know it crosses 3 states. So all Trump has to do is dig it up. He controls it. So China went around and bought all of the rare earth minerals. And then what happened? Well, one of the biggest deposits is in North Korea. So China was digging in North Korea. People still don't know this. Mark my words, it'll someday come out. That's how they got the Ukrainian missiles that the North Korea is launching, because they gave them secret access to rare earth minerals in North Korea. But anyway, then Japan found the largest deposit under the ocean of rare earth minerals. They just have to figure out how to get it out. So China has been busted because they spent all their money they got from us for them being their 51% creator of all the crap we have in America. Everything in America came from China, especially if it was cheap, radioactive, didn't work, and it was poorly engineered and was a fake. Then it came from China. How about the plastic rice they sold us for years? Plastic rice, folks. That's how stupid we are. Every gemstone you can imagine, they have spent endless time manufacturing. It copies so exact that you have to use special machines to determine whether they're real or not. Diamonds, doesn't matter what it is. Their whole job is to cheat. That's it, period. Now, did it come from Wuhan lab? Of course it did. In his notes, we now know that USAID gave $40 million to NIH, the National Institute of Health, and Fauci gave it through his infectious disease section of the NIH. He gave it to crazy bat doctor in Wuhan. And then, yes, there was an accident there. The first 2 people who got it, they actually coded that, and they found that it was a man-made virus. And then they said it came from the bats in the the wet market. But no, it came from Perbrite that was down the street. It came from 2 British, basically that one of them was a P4 lab. And so they put it on the Chinese people, but they've done that again and again with many types of supposed viruses. So China is cooked.
Yeah, but how stupid are the Chinese that they are not pointing out the British involvement with this whole coronavirus? They're going to be sitting ducks if they don't start speaking up about the British.
President Xi might as well be British. He's the king of China. And you see, we British started China, and I'm not sure they ever got out of China, but they learned how to be more viciously British than the British and imperialists that are absolutely insane. The New Silk Road, the Belt and Road Initiative basically said, bow down, I am the king of the world. And many countries went for it and sold them all their resources. And then when China didn't pay, they have lawsuits in almost every country. And now they're forbidden to do any business in many, many countries throughout the world. What did they expect to happen? Okay. So, and Russia, we don't have to worry about Russia. So what we're seeing here now is just beautiful. Now, are we going to jump to the Department of Education?
Yes.
Say something.
Douglas and I both spent our professional careers in public school, charter, private. We've had all kinds of it. Well, that's all we did was education. Even now, what we're doing here on Betsy and Thomas is trying to teach. We're using the internet. So when we see the Department of Education being dismantled, the federal Department of Education, we are so happy. The damage that group has done to our children, where I really began seeing it was in No Child Left Behind, because what we were having to do as teachers and school administrators was to lower our standards down to the dumbest children in our classroom. And you may think that sounds crass, but let me tell you what, you can't do anything with a child that's been over-vaccinated, even vaccinated, I would say, just at all, and fluoridated with the city water, and whose parents themselves don't read at home at night. These are dumb children. And if I had bright children, the whole class was slowed down because of No Child Left Behind. And then fast forward, I had one child that was I thought it was a good public school. And then he came home one day with this math problem. And I'm helping him with the math problem. We solve it. He takes it back to his teacher, flunks it because it's not done their way. Then I watched their way. It would scramble any adult brain to see how they teach math in these schools. But that was all part of the plan, to dumb down our children, to make them illogical thinkers. And finally, the last boom for me was watching all the money pouring in to teach these young, vulnerable, innocent children that they could choose their sex. I can't tell you how many children in my community I have seen ruined by this perversion. And then we see billions of dollars went into the Department of Ed for this campaign. So what happens is the children are in school, they look up to their teachers and their mentors, who then suggest that they could be another sex, and then the school rushes in with their little health services, and they tell the parents, you have to go see a psychiatrist. So then you go to the University of Michigan, where they too have been funded in this Marxist ideology, and convince your child that they are of another sex. And if you, the parent, step in and say, this is wackadoodle, Child Protective Services will be called and your child will be removed, and who knows what body parts will be taken off. I am so glad to see this horrible system flushed down the drain. I don't want to see any more federal interference in our education, except maybe vouchers for parents to choose their child's educational setting, whether it's homeschool, charter, private, or whatever.
Yeah, every president, when they come into their administration, has to, or it traditionally passes an education bill. That education bill is supposed to be innovative, and then they always say, oh, he's the education president. Okay, Carter did that. He created the Department of Education, completely unconstitutional. It took over all the states because it took health, agriculture, and education, separated them, and then put Title I funds for special federal funds, which they're going to extract first and then give you back apart for special ed children. And what was the other program they had? There were just a couple IDEA, which is another. It's a terrible program like DEA. And Obama's brought in DEA and started spending $1 billion a year. He was in office 8 years. That's $8 billion. We could have built a border around the entire America that is impregnable with that much money. But anyway, so every president does that. So Carter started this example of just absolutely doing something totally unconstitutional. It is a state's right. Why? The 10th Amendment of the Bill of Rights says that if it is not specifically in the Constitution, it is a state's right. Education is a state's right. But it isn't a state's right, and this is something we figured out, And we fought this at the state level and won. And no one even knew this existed until because I was so connected to the Department of Education and they needed my help because I wrote the assessment used in every single school for their accreditation now. And then they messed it up. I also wrote the program that is used in every federal penitentiary every juvenile detention facility for these children. We wrote the program here. It was so successful with a private company that the feds came and they adopted it everywhere. So I'm not speaking off the top of my head. I've worked with these people. They're idiots. They're the worst idiots of all. They built in 0.01 cent in every dollar that comes to the state from the Fed that then goes from the state to a public school. Therefore, the feds had control of all schools. That's why they call them, no-gun zones. You had to comply with all these stupid rules that got so many children killed. It's ridiculous. By the way, the FBI should be changed. Its title should now be the Agency for Active Shooters. Because remember, they're involved with almost every active shooter. And what is that? Well, how come we have an agency that's doing that? That's called communism. It's trying to erode us, all of our morality and everything else from the inside out. And so these people who are in these agencies are all guilty. And they know it. They can't not watch the news. If they watch the news, they'd see it. And they'd know that it's a lie and they're living a lie. And all these agencies we've mentioned, they all need to go. They don't need to be there. Department of Education has to go. And because it started to get so big that it went from it went into the billions and then it went into 100 billion. And now with Obama, it was into hundreds of billions. And then with Biden, this must be one of his slush funds. He added $427 billion to it per year. Now, where did that money go? Well, it went to Pearson. It went to all the big publishing companies. It went to DEI, $1 billion a year. That's nothing. It went to basically what Trump has now antidoted. It went to the structures, and this is a scam. The entire millage system that supports federal schools in the states, calling them federal schools, which they are not. They're really community schools supported by millages, and then they have to write grants to get the federal funds. And so if you're not accredited through this system that I created, which was supposed to be a qualitative system, they turned it into a quantitative system, and it's now horrible. It's awful. It's worse than anything they ever had before. And by the way, No Child Left Behind was a fraud. The assistant superintendent in Texas that George W. Bush, Baby Bush, used to create No Child Left Behind went to jail for the fraudulent information that was used behind No Child Left Behind. But hey, afterwards, what is it, Freedom of Education Act or whatever it's called by Obama, that was even worse. So now Trump has antidoted the whole thing. What has he said? And so you can go ahead and wait for Trump's education report. Here it is. Department of Education's closed. It's anti-constitutional. That gives him $627 billion to work with. It's probably more now because that was in 2020. Okay? So he's putting that into his sovereign fund. And with that sovereign fund, he gets to do with that whatever he wants. That's his fund. It doesn't touch the Congress. And this is the beauty that oligarchs use in other countries. They create sovereign funds from the World Bank and the World Trade Organization, the IMF, and then the oligarchs steal it and put it in offshore accounts. And by the way, Betsy just asked me, what is he going to do about offshore accounts? Very easy. He's going to repatriate that money if they pay taxes or prove that they paid taxes, and then they're going to be closed down because they're fraudulent, they're illegal, and there's no money there. It's all digits. And basically, that's the whole world right now. Central banks are based upon digits. They're not based upon anything of any value. So we are in a bizarre scenario here. But I'm just so thrilled that he's closing down the Department of Education, and he needs to close down the Department of Prisons. I worked with them for a number of years. I worked with them, and we created a program that is used in every federal juvenile detention facility because it got success. Guess what? It was a private company that did this. What do you think the feds did? Worst statistics you've ever seen in your life. They supposedly never got any student up to age 18 to learn anything ever. We turned that around so that they became the advanced students who then, there was a program, a federal program. This is how they waste the money. Federal program for any student who's ever received Medicaid for 18 months in a row. Well, if you receive Medicaid, if you're in prison, you automatically receive Medicaid. So if you've been in prison for 18 months, you get a full scholarship to any place you want. I know, I wrote many of these, and my students advanced so quick in many areas, especially art, music, and poetry, by the way. Well, not music so much, but poetry, some music. They went to college and got their degrees, okay, for free. And they were even given a place to live and spending money. That's how we really waste money. And then what happens? Almost every one of these guys, I found out many years later when I would chase them down, or they would come, I'd hear that they were locked up because the police would tell me. They failed. They went back to what they were taught, because whatever you were taught when you were young, unless you objectively reject that, you're going to keep doing it. It's as simple as that. That's why recidivism happens. But we were very successful with this. We also had the number one school in the state of Michigan called Oasis Academy, and they came there, and they also came to my other school's Academy of Detroit to see how we got our scores to go up so fast. Music, dance, recitation, choral recitation, so on and so forth. That's all you have to do. I've done this in so many schools, it's ridiculous, and the school scores go up. Scores don't tell you anything. High stakes scoring is evil to children. The teachers can't deal with it. I would start my teacher training courses off by giving them a high stakes test, and they would all practically start crying because they couldn't handle it. Well, they're the ones dishing this out, but they can't take it. That's what we've done. So what has Trump done? Yes. Homeschools, folks. Homeschools.
Yeah, but homeschooling isn't for everybody. Some families, they feel intimidated by it, or they have work schedules that they have been reliant on public education for their babysitting and indoctrination. You know, that's what's happening there, really, more than just the babysitting. But you kind of have to ease out of it. There are co-op schooling where parents get together and kind of bring a homeschooling environment, but with shared responsibilities. And also, let's look for vouchers to help parents pay for maybe a private teacher to come in. You know, it wouldn't pay for all of it, but you gather a few children in your home and get a good teacher, several good teachers rotating in and out. Or you do small private schools. There are going to be a lot of solutions. But if you are as awake as we are now, I would never send any one of my 7 children ever to public school.
And just like Trump is doing everywhere else, let the people who can do. So in Hawaii, my teachers eventually got hip to the fact that they could go to their property, build a little structure, and have their own school there and make more money than they did at the school I was the principal of. And it worked very beautifully. You didn't have to do anything illegal. It was just, and they had children. So whatever age their child was, then you say, I have room for 5 more third graders at my house. Because if you have a degree in this state, and it's different in every state, you can teach 6 children out of your house. And then there's a few rules you have to abide by, but not many. It's so easy. It's ridiculous. Homeschooling. But as Betsy just said, this is also cooperative schooling. So what we like to do is hire one teacher and then set up a school. That's all you need. Period. One teacher. And then that teacher has parent assistants or whatever. And then all you have to do is state what curriculum you're using. Well, that's very easy to do, and you can go forward with this in a way that you can save yourself money, and so many times one or the other parent in a family can stay home and make as much money teaching their children and a couple other children in the neighborhood as you can going to work. So what we see is everything is changing. This is so fast, I cannot tell you, and sometimes one single word. So we get Ukraine's lithium. Okay, when did that happen? When did Trump do that? How did that happen? And yet, who even knew there was lithium there? And how did he? Oh yeah, we gave you. That's why Zelensky's saying, I only got half the money you say that that we need to pay you back with the lithium, right? And Trump's saying, well, then what are we doing? We're auditing all the money that went to Ukraine. Guess what? That means the Biden family, every member got money. guaranteed. Pelosi got money. All those people got money. And everyone that you saw get out in the video the other day early, they all got money from Ukraine, and they got it from U.S. aid. And it's money coming and going so fast. That's the reason they don't read the bills that they vote for. They don't have time because of the fraudulent money laundering that's going on in our government. So I am so thrilled this is happening. And I got to see, Canada collapse. Now Canada is bringing helicopters. They're going to stop the fentanyl, blah, blah, blah. Before that, we were their enemy. We now get to see Mexico, 10,000 troops on the border. Well, you know why they're putting the troops on the border? I'll tell you why. Because we're going to drop bombs on them. And that's going to kill the cartel. And the cartel is why Mexico has an economy. So Mexico has to find new buyers. And so who were the MS-13 and all those people coming across the border? Those were people from south of us who were coming up here with the help of the CIA. How do you think Chinese pregnant women, thousands of them came across the border? Those were CIA delivered on buses and on ships. This was well known. So this has been going on for a long time. So Trump is killing the CIA. Do you get this? People complaining, why isn't he killing the CIA? The CIA is on our southern border. The CIA creates war. If you stop war with tariffs and economy, and you stop the attack on the southern border, you stop the CIA, which means you stop the Pilgrim Society.